Маємо надзвичайні спогади тих часів, записані панією Donna Korchinski з Calgary. Її батьки – інтерновані українці.
Конгрес українців Канади 20 червня відзначує століття закінчення програми насильного інтернування українців в Канаді під час Першої світової війни.
Hello, my name is Donna Korchinski. I'm in Calgary. My step-grandfather, Harry Levitsky, we called him Dito Levitsky, was interned at Castle Mountain during World War I. I remember Dito at home. You know, he lived in his own little house in a small cottage on my parents' yard right next door. His passion was Hockey Night in Canada. Oh my gosh, he loved it. He loved Frank Mahavlich. Oh my gosh. And he shared meals at our table, so we talked a lot. We got to know him. But his secret history of his internment was locked inside of him. You know, he wasn't alone. Like my Dito, so many of the stories of the internees were lost because they would not talk about that part of their lives. When I was growing up, I didn't have a clue about the internment. Nobody talked about it. And not my Dito, not my parents, nobody. So to this day, I don't know if it was because it was too shameful to talk about or too painful, or maybe they thought it was not important enough. But I doubt that. I will never know. You know, as a journalist, I had a lot of questions. The answers would have helped me piece the story together. I had so many questions. What was it like being imprisoned in the mountains of Banff, one of the most beautiful places in the world? What was it like in winter when it was 30 below, 20, 30 below? What did you wear? What was it like at night? Did you have enough covers? What did you talk about with the other prisoners? Or were you allowed to talk to the other prisoners? Did you have enough to eat to get you through a long, grueling day, pounding spikes on the railroad tracks? How did they treat you? And what was it like in the summer, in this sweltering heat? Did you have enough water to drink? All those questions never got answered. How I came to learn about the internment was when I became president of the Ukrainian Professional Business Federation. It was the time I met scholars like Lyubomir Lychuk and Bogdan Kordan and the Toronto lawyer John Gregorovich, and here in Calgary, Boris Sidorik. I saw them working passionately to tell the world about the internment, about the injustice, and they were seeking redress for this injustice inflicted on our Ukrainian community by the Canadian government of that day. So it kept on nagging at me. Why didn't I learn about it at home? The only thing I knew, as I learned later, was that when my step-grandfather, Harry Levitsky, came back from the camp, he asked my father to write a letter to the Canadian government because he believed at the time that he was entitled to pay 25 cents a day for every day he was interned at the camp. So my father wrote a letter to the government. I don't know what department he would have written it to. He wrote the letter to the government and he received no answer. And he didn't pursue it anymore. You know, Ukrainians were polite, especially in those days. You know, as a journalist at the time, I was searching for answers. I went to the Glenbow Museum, to the archives here in Calgary. What I found were not stories. I found photos, but also what I found were cold, dispassionate log entries. It was from the commanders of the camp. It was like military business as usual. There were no descriptions of the hardships in the severe winter weather, or the sweltering heat of summer, or the lack of warm clothing, or the lack of food, or the lack of water. Or even the drudgery or heartbreaking pounding, the backbreaking pounding of digging and lifting. The irony was that they mentioned the attempted escapees or the deaths, and they were just almost like a footnote, one line. So-and-so escaped, so-and-so died. That was it. I also found my grandfather's name. Well, It was there, but it was spelled badly. I barely recognized it. You know, 100 years have gone by since that internment. And today, in spite of the anger, more than ever, you know, we need to continue to talk about the internment to our neighbors, to our community, to our children. They need to know about that injustice. We need to keep talking and talking and talking about it. By talking about it, it will help us to understand who we are, and it will help non-Ukrainians also to know who we are. We have a part in the fabric of Canada, one of sacrifice, one of pain, and one of pride. In spite of our anger, we must forgive. Yes, it was a wrong. If we do not forgive, we're stuck. And what happens? We remain as perpetual victims. It would destroy us from the inside. It would destroy us individually, and it would destroy us as a community. We don't want that. To observe this anniversary of our dark history, why don't you take a drive out to Banff? Visit Castle Mountain. See the old campsite, the plaque. Make a pilgrimage to the Cave-in Basin and read the stories. And stand there and imagine for yourself the men suffering, physically tired, cold, hungry, lonely, and hopeless. Hear their voices, see their faces, see their tears. You can feel their energy there. And thank these men for their sacrifices and release your anger, like I did. And I thank my Tito for being part of that story.
Проєкт відзначення 20 червня спонсорований Канадським фондом визнання інтернування під час Першої світової війни.